Hi, good morning, everyone. We're here again with Clean Slate People, and it is my great pleasure today to have the gorgeous and very powerful Krystal Oriadha, who was one of the people who was targeted by the nefarious redistricting scam that just went on in Prince George's County, which very coincidentally drew her out of her candidacy district. Well, thank goodness the appeals court has thrown that out, and now we are able to have her running again. Krystal is a longtime resident and native of Seat Pleasant. She's the co-founder of the grassroots organization PG Changemakers, which is doing a lot of great work on a number of different topics. She began her career working with Hewlett-Packard. She has worked with the federal government as a communications consultant on issues like human trafficking, domestic violence, adolescent pregnancy. So she's no stranger to hot button topics, okay? In addition, she has been honored with the 40 Under 40 Award for public service in 2019. She's a graduate of Howard University. And also she received her MBA from, oh goodness.
Amberton.
Okay, Amberton, sorry.
No worries.
Little glitch there. And also she has done studies abroad and work abroad in Tanzania at the University of Dar es Salaam. So I would just say that she is very well prepared to serve in public office, and we really support her candidacy for the county council. And she's going to talk about something today that's very near and dear to my heart, which is community-based development. So I'll let her take it from there. So Krystal, would you just share your thoughts with us?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and creating this space and platform to have these conversations around really important issues that are impacting our community. So for me, community-based development, I think, is the heart of my campaign, and one of the reasons I decided to run. As mentioned, I live in Seat Pleasant, and our community is one that is designated a food desert. And we had like a lot of our grocery stores shipped away in our communities. But if you look on every corner, we have like 24-hour tobacco shops, we have liquor stores, we have like Family dollar stores. But that's like the heart of our community, right? We don't really have access to like fresh foods and vegetables. We really don't have space for like our small businesses to grow. And there's really no input between looking at our community and our needs and what we want to see in our backyard to what's being developed and what's being brought into our communities. And that's why I really want us to move towards a community-based development in the way we look at our districting, the way we look at all developments that come into our community. And so when you talk about community-based development, you can look at it in so many different layers. It's a more complicated like conversation and more nuanced than just ask people what they want and have it come into our community, right? Because if you do it in a thoughtful way, you can impact so many things. You could talk about impacting jobs. You could talk about impacting the opportunity for small business to grow. You could look at affordable housing. All of that is wrapped up in the conversation of community-based development. So I'll look at talk about first the housing aspect, right? So one thing in District 7 that we've seen a lot, and we see a lot in Prince George's County, the conversation about being a bedroom community, right? Because we developed a lot of homes, residential, if it's townhomes, condos, and we focus on that more than anything, more than developing retail, developing industry, is that we're constantly building residential. But one of the things that we haven't thought about when we are developing these new like places to live is something called inclusionary zoning. And so what's really crucial about inclusionary zoning when you're doing development is that a lot of developers, when they come in and they're developing something new, the expectation is for like a higher market value. So let's say that the current rent rate in, an area is for one bedroom, $1,500. right? A new development comes in and they might, sorry, accidentally muted myself.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
might want
Yeah.
to come
Start
in.
again with a new development may come in.
Okay, so a new development might come in and they say, well, we want to start our rate instead at 1,500 for one bedroom, maybe 2,500 for one bedroom, or the cost of that townhome, like maybe usually it would cost maybe 200,000 for a home in that community. They build a new development, but the starting rate is 400,000. So when you talk about inclusionary zoning, you're basically saying, okay, if a new development is going to come in a community and we need to ensure that some of the units that they're developing is at a rate that current residents can afford them. They're not just about targeting new people to move into the community, but that you're not pushing people out so that the people that have lived in that community for decades can afford these new facilities that you're building. So there's a benefit to developers, right? Because a lot of people say, well, no, developers won't want to do that. You're costing them. But it's inclusionary zoning. The great concept about that is that it's not bad for developers and it's not bad for the community. Because usually the ask, for example, is a developer can say, we're going to build 100 units. And council, or any, if it's city council, county council, could come in and say, okay, we'd rather you build 150 units, and we would like 50 units to be at this market rate, the current market rate, for X amount of years, maybe 20, 15 years. And what you'll get is you'll get a tax reduction on the 50 additional units that you develop. So it's not just asking for something without actually taking into consideration the business model for the developers, but it's being intentional and thoughtful about ensuring that the community can afford it. And it's not 1 year, 2 year. You think about an expanded amount of time, 15 to 20 years, so that it gives you opportunity to up the living wage in your communities, up the opportunities for people to be making more money, but it's realistic about the current economic situation of the residents in that community. But the great thing about community-based development is that it doesn't only have to look at the housing, it also can look at commercial. So the same concept is that when let's take the Suitland development, for example, right? It's mixed use, it's coming in District 7, it's right across from the Suitland metro station, and it's doing, townhomes, condos, and it's gonna have retail. But one of the biggest issues when the development was coming in the community, and I was talking to all the small businesses that had been on that main strip on Addison Road before the development, was that they could not afford to open their storefront in the new development anymore. They would be priced out. And when I was talking to some of the people behind the scenes, I was like, were there any conversations about reduced rates, about how could you grandfather in some of the establishments that have been in this community for over a decade? And there was no conversation, no thought, no intentionality to make sure these small minority-owned businesses, community-based businesses that have been serving our communities for so long could still stay in our community when we built these new updated facilities. And so it's like, how do you infuse that same concept of inclusionary zoning, where, okay, if you're going to have 20 new storefronts, okay, we want to set aside, for, businesses that had already been in this community, that now we're tearing down, the old development to build something new, so that they could actually come back and afford, to be in this space for, again, not for like 1 to 2 years, but building it at a reduced rate for something substantial, 5 to 10 years, allowing for their revenue to increase, allowing for them to be able to afford the new, more expensive rate. So for me, I think we have to look at, one, asking the community what they want, asking them what they want to see in their own backyards, then intentionality when you're building it to ensure that they can afford it. Because there are a lot of times where they'll say, oh, residents want to see, new shopping, or they want to see new grocery stores, or they want to see new townhomes. And so they come, but they're not built for us because we can't afford them. Good examples, they just built a small grocery store in Sea Pleasant to tackle the idea that we are a food desert, but it's overpriced. and it's small. And most of the community, when they go in there, they can't afford what's in there. So it really wasn't built for us. It was built for the intentionality behind, oh, they think the demographics of our city's changing. And eventually there'll be a clientele that can afford that store. But still, people that live here currently can't afford it. And it's not actually a full grocery store. So it doesn't have all the things that our community needs. And so it's ensuring that we think about it from all of those lenses.